So you might notice that I'm coming from the top side in this route instead of the bottom side from this video to the last video, and that's because
the quickest route to Venom is through a treacherous debris field. Keep your wits about you.
You don't have to worry about us.
Sorry, just didn't want to interrupt the little intro there. But that's because I went back and did a bunch of the alternate route stuff, which I will show because there are some unique areas and then some unique bosses to those. But I'm gonna be honest, as far as I'm aware, I don't think that those different routes in this game changes anything in terms of like the ending, you know, kind of like how 64 does. At least I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I might be wrong on that, but as far as I'm aware, it doesn't. There's only like one thing that I can think of that actually changes the ending, but I think that's also solely determined on like a specific point in the actual ending, which we'll get to later when that comes up. But I think that's really the only thing that changes anything. And so I'm thinking of probably what I'm going to end up doing is I will show, you know, all the footage of those planets, because I did record it. You know. They were recording, because, you know, there are some things that you can do, some objectives that you can change a little bit to get some different results, you know. I mean, if you're familiar with the Star Fox series, you know, the classic mission complete versus mission accomplished thing. So there are some things that you can do in order to alter the results just a little bit, but either way, I think I'm gonna do that more just as a bit more of a bonus after the actual normal like route and, you know, just normal ending. Just because I feel like it makes it I don't know, makes it a little bit better. Because,
what's going on?
Like, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but like, as I was saying, I don't think it really changes that much at all, other than just kind of giving, you know, some bonus routes, different things. So I'm gonna pretty much just, you know, go through the game, beat it, and then show those and have some comments about it, because it's actually, I think they do some really interesting things with those routes. So, and I think, I'm not sure, I'd have to look at the actual name of the planet, but I think one of the planets is brand new, or if not brand new, it is like very much changed from how it functions in 64. Now this is a really strange boss to me, because this is the, you know, this is the boss from the hard route in Corneria from 64, but they like took this boss and then changed it to, you know, you fight him in all range mode, and then changed him up a little bit, and I feel like it's just so weird, because, like, you know, like, the most I can say is it's like, yeah, it is a boss that exists. It just feels so weird, you know, to, like, play, though, because, like, enjoy this! You know, they do, like, the all-range mode, but it only feels like a kind of all-range mode in a way, because I feel like there's not much room to really move around, and, like, when you're, like, close to him, I feel like you almost do some, like, weird, like, slow down, like, stuttering.
Are you okay?
So, but I feel like, you know, unfortunately, it ends up just being a little bit, you know, more of an annoying boss to deal with when he's in like, this style versus kind of just that normal, like kind of more front-facing style that they have in 64 when you fight this boss. But overall, you know, compared to some of the things, honestly, I don't think this is too bad. It's just kind of odd to me, but it's definitely not that bad. It's just slightly strange. But as we're kind of going through the planets and as we're getting close to actually reaching the end of this game, I'm like, one of the things that kind of confuses me a little bit is it'll become a lot more apparent at like the end of this, just because like it happens with a conversation with Andros, but it feels like Star Fox, like the Star Fox series has like this weird thing where, like when it comes to Andros, like at times they'll just kind of like, it almost feels like in between games they'll like forget about like who Andros is, or like vice versa, like Andros will be like, oh hey Fox, you know, nice to meet you, and it's literally like, isn't he like the antagonist of like, you know, every game? So it's like, it just feels like kind of weird in a way, but I will say that I actually don't know if, you know, that's the case for all of them, because I have not played the GameCube ones, so I've only seen like some brief like clips on the GameCube ones, so they might actually, you know, keep it to where they're familiar with each other. But I always find that kind of weird, but I guess in a way, in like a weird way, you know, I mean, 64, I feel like it's just kind of the most common version that everyone knows, and the one that I feel like most people probably think that it's just like, oh, you know, you should follow this formula, which is, you know, probably why they've remade it so many times. It's because it's like the one that everyone's like, oh yeah, this formula works. And I only very briefly played like some of the like earlier ones, like,
How dare you!
I'm trying to think, I don't know, it might have been like the Super Nintendo. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I briefly played that one, and then, you know, obviously I played this one, and then I played like some of the DS ones, but granted, one of the DS ones, like the 3DS one, was just a, you know, remake of 64, and then the other DS one was, you know, something alright. It was just such a weird setup that they had for that one. I feel like it almost, you know, feels like what they're doing is they're trying to basically reboot the series, you know, over and over again, and then they're just like, oh, this will be, you know, like the first one in the series now, this will be, you know, like the reboot. But then, like, it feels weird because, like I said, you know, it's like, for me, who's played multiple of the Star Fox games, it's just like, what do you mean this is the first time they've seen each other? It's like, don't they, like, you know, it's like, don't they hate each other? And that's like kind of the whole gist of, it's like, you know, the hero antagonist type of, you know, gimmick they got going on is his Fox is literally just like, hey Andros, I hate your guts, you kind of, you know, killed my father and everything. So, and then, I guess Andros, in a way, doesn't necessarily hate Fox yet. If this is like the first time, you know, he's met him, because, I mean, he hasn't, like, you know, foiled his plans over and over again if they're counting this as, you know, basically like Fox's introduction to who he is, but either way, you know, it's more of a just, hey, you're in my way, so I gotta remove you type of, you know, kind of classic villain, basically. But anyway, you know, the whole point of that whole rant is just that, I just find it weird that, you know, they kind of
No time to chat. We gotta
feel
go.
like they don't have, like, those relationships built with each other at all, but at the same time, it's probably just because it's, like, the series just feels like it's been on constant reboot action over and over and over again. So, you know, it's like, maybe that's why, but I just, you know, was kind of sitting here, like, going through the footage and, like, editing and everything, and just kind of crossed my mind. I'm like, you know, that's kind of strange when you really think about it, because it's like, I guess there's like kind of that similar thing in a way to some extent in like.
So, Venom has disappeared. However, there is still a way to get to Andros.
What? How?
There's no time to explain. Return to Corneria immediately.
Copy that. On our way.
But basically the comparison that I was gonna make was that it was like, I guess in like the Legend of Zelda series, you know, they have like a whole thing of, it's like, Link doesn't technically know each version of Ganondorf because it's technically, I think, in some way, shape, or form, like different Links and Zeldas and Ganondorfs in like in certain ways due to, you know, how like the technical stuff works with the whole demise thing and all that kind of stuff. So
I cannot establish contact with General Pepper.
It's kind of just a
all units head for the tower.
They're, you know, stuck in a never-ending cycle so they don't know each other per se. Unless in some, like, very rarely, I feel like, you know, one's a direct sequel to the other, because that does happen.
I'll take point. Watch my back, Fox.
I feel like it kind of ends up being, like, more rare. And also, in, like, a way, it's like, because you have, you know, Majora's Mask sequel to Ocarina of Time, but then you have Majora, who's like, completely outside of the whole Ganondorf thing. And then you have the Breath of the Wild, the Tears of the Kingdom thing, which is, you know, like, it is like the same, you know, like Ganondorf thing that like Link fought in the first one, but I feel like it's also weirdly different in a way, since it was just like, oh yeah, you know, you kind of fought Ganon only, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, but now Ganondorf, you know, is back. Plus, he probably also, you know, doesn't have that. Link doesn't talk much, so even if he does recognize him, he probably wouldn't say. But, you know, it's like, anyway, you know, continuity of these series, you know, aside of that, you know, getting out of the way of all that, because honestly, it's like, who knows at this point.
Are you okay?
It all gets so confusing with, like, I swear any series that has a story.
Get on my tail! Fox, help me out here!
It feels like that, at least. But anyway, I do think,
Good going, Fox!
it is interesting how they do this whole thing of, it's like, oh, you know, wow, you were off, doing stuff in the galaxy. It's like, they attacked Corneria again, because, you know, it feels very much just like, in a way, it feels like they're trying to go for the,
Where'd you come from?
you know, while you're doing, like, all your efforts and everything, you play, like, right into the enemy's hand type thing. And, I mean, you know, technically, Andros is, you know, like a crazy, you know, genius. Like, he was just kind of a
General Pepper, please
evil
respond!
scientist
Come
that,
on!
This is
it was like, he
Fighters
did
are
too
pouring
much.
from the sky.
His methods, you know, kind
All
of
this
went
attention
too
makes a
far.
guy feel loved.
And that's, you know, why he was banished in the first place, but I'm like, it would make sense, you know, that he has, like, all of this planned out from a very strategic point of view, but
Enemy down!
I don't know, it's one of those things that I feel like, We just need, you know, more Star Fox in general to really explore
Careful. Looks like things are about to
a lot
get
of these
rough.
contexts, because I know that they have, like, there probably is more material on, like, Star Fox than, like, I know about, because, like, at least when I was watching, like, you know, when you were, like, watching, like, the Mario Galaxy movie, when that came out, you know, and the whole, like, Star Fox in Mario Galaxy, they had, like, that whole, like, anime intro, and I'm sure there's been, like, some sort of, like, animation or, like, comics, short comics of, like, some sort, probably, to some extent,
Hey, you're being
that
tailed. Try doing a somersault.
goes into, like, the history and the lore of the characters a little more. But, gonna be honest, like, the only thing I really know is pretty much the games, and even then, it's, like, honestly, mostly revolves around 64. If I'm being honest, so I feel like my knowledge is very, you know, vague in that sense.
Fox, get this guy off me!
But
Well done. Now, hurry, Fox. We have to act immediately.
I love how he's like, well done, and I did not.
We decommissioned this teleporter, but Andros has
It's
somehow
like I did
taken
not
control of
get
it.
that goal.
It leads straight to Venom. The danger it poses is unthinkable. Follow me. Let's finish this.
I do think it's interesting how they have, like, they introduced a lot more of, like, the portal stuff in this one. Because
I'm picking
I'm
up
like,
huge energy
ironically,
readings. Watch
I
out!
feel like the whole, like, warp zone, you know, like, portal system
What's that
is,
thing doing here?
like, one of the parts of the 64 that I actually did not explore for a long time. Like, it's kind of weird
need to
how
take
that
out that
works out, you know,
Gigarilla.
I knew about, you know, the differences in the routes and
Enemy
everything
shield analyzed.
pretty soon on, to some extent. Some of the requirements, you know, I wasn't 100% sure on.
Your lasers won't
But
even dent that armor. Look for a weak
I'm like,
point.
I never really explored the warp ability that they have on the asteroid field, and I believe it's Sector X, I'm pretty sure. So, I never, like, explored a lot of those very much, so I do think it's interesting, you know, how this game really does a lot with, like, the whole, like, warp portal mechanic.
It's too powerful! I can't get close enough!
So I feel like it's just, you know, kind of feels like a little bit new in a sense to me, just because I'm not super, like, as familiar with them, because I usually don't use them, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only, like, technical point of the warps were to, like, change the route destination, because I think if you used, like, either of the warps, because they're both on easy routes, so, but I think if you used either of them, then it would warp you into, like those middling planets, which then would allow you to get to the,
We have to somehow cut it
which
power.
were, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. I was gonna say, which then allows you to get to the technical, like, true ending on, like, the hard route if you didn't go for the hard route. But I feel like my problem is that I end up,
Come on, Fox. Don't give up. Believe in yourself.
I end up doing, like, the hard route, basically, almost every time, unless I'm specifically, doing something for the easy route. Like, for example, when I recorded my playthrough of Star Fox 64, I specifically was like, yeah, I'm gonna also feature the easy route, because it, you know, is a huge part of the game, too. But other than that, I mean, I mostly just end up going with the with the hard route, so it's like I never end up really using the warps, but I'm pretty sure that, like, the big thing about the warps is just kind of allowing you to change your route in a way to go back to still getting, like, the true ending. But, you know, as I'm sitting here talking about this, I'm, you know, getting destroyed by this boss. Gonna be honest, I feel like that's just, you know, how it ends up being with most bosses in this game. And gonna be honest, I don't know if it's necessarily a mechanic thing or whatever, it's just that, you know, because I just don't have the experience as I do with, like, 64. But, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of the stuff in this game that I just struggle so much more with. But I do think, you know, like, one of the planets that I had meant to comment on, but was kind of, you know, lost in my own tangent, was when it kind of, like, did the G-Diffuser hyper mode, and it was just going super fast, which I was like, oh, that's a little too fast for me. But,
so, you must be,
you know,
James McCloud's son, eh?
I'm just like, some mechanics, I swear, even on this playthrough, and I've played this game before, have thrown me off. But I'll let the cutscene play out, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Look! The portal is closing!
I'm going it alone. Fox, go! Fox!